peace and mercy of Allah. With you, Hani Magoob greets you from the Pendulum channel for the treatment of magic and touch. Welcome. After praise be to Allah and prayers and peace be upon His messenger. As we mentioned to you before that, we created this channel specifically to learn how to use the pendulum in detecting and treating magic and touch, in addition to envy. We made a lot of videos, but we wanted to paraphrase what we mentioned earlier. Perhaps it will be more clear and easier to understand on many. But the question that we ask you, which may be on the minds of many, how can this simple tool that is used without rituals, spells, or talismans and is available to anyone to use? How can this simple tool detect magic and touch? And how it can treat all of them? The question now is, what is a pendulum? The pendulum, as you see, is a ball hanging on a string. And any other geometric shape can be used instead of the ball, provided that it has weight and is suspended from a thread. And that I prefer to use this type of pendulum, which is a small ball suspended on a string. Preferably no more than 2.5 centimeters in diameter. It should be painted black. It is preferable that the length of the pendulum string ranges between 30 and 40 centimeters. Anyone can make it themselves. You can get a rubber ball from a toy store and paint it black, and enter the thread in this way to be hanging in it. And if this is not possible for you, you can also go to a woodworking workshop and ask him to make a small ball for you with a diameter of no more than 2.5 centimeters and pierce it and insert a thread into it until it is ready for use. The pendulum has many uses. What are the uses of the pendulum? We will not talk about these uses, because we are interested in using it in one area only. It is, as I mentioned to you, to reveal magic and touch and treat each of them, in addition to envy. If you want to reveal a person, is he affected by magic, touch or envy? And he was there with you. It is a simple and easy method. You will ask from this person to simplify the palm of his right hand for you. Then you will be holding the pendulum like this and lowering it little by little, until it starts to vibrate above that person's hand. The vibration can be left and right, and some people move with them in a circular motion. After that she asks him to turn his hand. It is assumed that if this is, as we call it, the length of the subjective wave, and we will explain it to you in detail in upcoming videos, by the will of God Almighty. When he flips his hand, the pendulum either stops or moves in the longitudinal direction like this. And if the last time he moved in a clockwise direction, when he turns his hand, he moves in a counterclockwise direction or moves in the opposite direction or the opposite direction. After that you put the pendulum above his right palm like this and then you put your right hand above his head. Of course, when you place the pendulum above the palm of his right hand, it will start to vibrate. And when you place your right hand on his head, if the pendulum stops vibrating, it is affected by magic or touch. If the shaking continues, this indicates that this person is a healthy person. I will explain to you in upcoming videos how to detect, and how to treat in detail. But the question here, which comes to the minds of many, what makes the pendulum move, and what makes it stop? In order for the pendulum to move, it must have energy that pushes it or moves it. When we perform a gravitational acceleration experiment in physics, we are suspending the pendulum, but we are not suspending it in a metal stand. In order to start, his movement must be pushed hard, and gain kinetic energy. But in our case we are when you hold the pendulum in your hand and you are not hanging it on a metal or wooden holder. When you hold it in his hand and place it on your own hand or place it on someone else's hand, it starts to move automatically. Where did he get this energy? This energy that he gained is the energy emanating from the subconscious mind, which we can say is the energy of the soul. This type of energy is studied by a science called radiesthesia, a word that means a sense of energy or a sense of vibration. There are those who define this science as the science of information exchange through the relationship between the human energy field and the energy field of waves around it. Of course, the human energy field here is the spiritual energy. The two French scientists, Chaumery and Belizal, called the physical radiesthesia microvibrations. This is in the book Essai de radiesthesie vibratoire in 1940. It was considered one of the branches of ordinary physics that deals with energy in a standard way, but in radiesthesia, energy is dealt with in a descriptive way. We have explained this in previous videos and there is no need to repeat it here again. Therefore, when the pendulum moves in my hand, it moves with an energy that I have gained from my spiritual energy, and through it we can infer that another person has been affected by magic, touch or envy. The pendulum measures energy or radiation. Whether this energy or radiation is caused by humans, the jinn, diamonds, or the servants of magic. It also transmits this energy. Shumiri and Belazal mentioned in their book that the pendulum, after gaining energy, radiates another energy that has the characteristics of carrier waves such as Hertz waves, which carries sound waves over long distances. This explains the ability of the pendulum in telemedicine, as it transmits the sound waves of the verses of Ruqya that the therapist reads. He transmits them to the place of the person who is required to be treated, who is contacted by his name, as it represents the same spiritual energy of the person receiving the treatment. Of course you want to learn the pendulum. You may have tried before, but it did not give you confirmed results, or give you results that you questioned. Why? Because there are conditions that must be met before you use the pendulum. If it is not currently available, it may be available in the future. What are these conditions? To test these conditions you must first define your own intrinsic wave. How do you define your own wave? You extend your left hand like this and then lower the pendulum on it little by little until the pendulum starts to vibrate left and right or in a vibrating movement like this. I prefer it about rotation. Then you turn your left hand like this and put the pendulum on top of it. If this is the length at which the pendulum moves in an oscillating motion on the palm of your hand. For this to be a self-wave it must stop when you turn your left hand like this or move in the opposite direction. And you must make sure that the pendulum does this only once or only at this length. Some people, when measuring the self-wave, may move the pendulum with it. For example, at 5 centimeters, vibrate and stop. Move at 15, vibrate and stop or not stop at 17 for example. It begins to vibrate, and it may stop when he turns his hand or not. What is important in order to memorize this is actually the self-wave, so the pendulum should not move with you except at this length. As for the existence of other lengths, we will explain them to you in upcoming videos, God Almighty willing. If you make sure that this length, for example, is the length of your own wave, then make sure that a person who can use a pendulum let the pendulum vibrate like this above your hand and then place it on the navel area. And leave it in a state of vibration. You must count the times of shaking, which must be between 30 and 50. I mean, never less than 3, but it can reach 50. If this condition is met, this means that you are someone who is fit to use a pendulum. And if the pendulum vibrates with you at a great number of lengths, this may mean that you are infected with witchcraft or touch, and it needs treatment, and we can make it clear in the coming times, God willing. There are several questions we must answer. What is the force that causes the pendulum to move? And what is its importance? And how can it be used? The answer, God willing, will be in the next episode. You are in God's care and security. I hope you liked this video and our channel was satisfied. Thank you for listening.